Adesina, Koiki in front of NFL headquarters, the rally in support of Colin Kaepernick, and it's a pleasure to be joined by political activist Linda Sarsour, co-organizer of the Women's March back in January 2017. And first of all, Linda, thank you so very much for the time. What does it mean to you personally to be here in support of Colin Kaepernick, not just with your words, but as of right now with your sartorial choice as well?
I see us standing for Colin as part of the larger racial justice movement that I'm a part of and have been a part of for almost 2 decades. I see the injustice that Kaepernick is facing inside the NFL as an extension of what is already happening outside here in our community. So I'm here to stand for anyone who stands up for what's right, and Colin stood up for what's right.
When he initially stood up for what was right, when he initially had his kneeling in a preseason game and you first got wind of it, what was your initial reaction to that?
I was very proud of Colin as somebody who myself does not stand and pledge allegiance, that people are now seeing it as an opportunity and see it as an actual form of protest, that we do not have to pledge allegiance to be Americans and proud Americans. And in fact, dissent is the highest form of patriotism, in my opinion. So Colin was joining us, those who have continued to dissent against the nation that continues to oppress our communities. There
have been so many athletes, well-known athletes, from John Smith and Tommy Carlos in 1968, Muhammad Ali, of course. You mentioned Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Chris Jackson, who had a similar protest as well back in the NBA as well. We've seen what happened in Charlottesville. We've seen what happened in Ferguson. We've seen what has happened all across the country. In a way, does this happening in sports, could that possibly move the needle a little bit because of so many people who consume sports regardless of their political allegiance?
Absolutely. We have to remember that white supremacists are not a bunch of cowardly men walking around with tiki torches. Sometimes white supremacists are wearing police uniforms. Sometimes they're wearing suits in Congress. And sometimes they're sitting in boardrooms in the NFL. And it's an opportunity for a corporation like the NFL to take a stand and to make it real clear to us whose side they are on. Because right now we're not clear if they are on the side of the people and the communities and black and brown consumers and the 75% black players, or are they on the side of those who want to divide us and those who want to punish Colin Kaepernick for using his freedom of speech and freedom of protest?
There are so many people who have so many different views on what America is as a society and its evolution, if it has evolved in that sense. You've mentioned your political activism that has gone on for over 2 decades now. Compare when you first started being active in political activism and the tenor then compared to the tenor now.
The only difference between 2 decades ago and now is now we have social media. So we knew that black and brown people were getting killed on the streets of our communities even 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But we never saw it on social media. There was no trending hashtag. So that's the difference now. The very injustices that we're standing up against today are the same injustices that people have been standing up in this country for centuries. So it's kind of like we're sick and tired of coming to the same rallies, talking about the same things that people like Dr. Martin Luther King were talking about 50 years ago. So for us, it's not different. The injustice is not different. The sentiment is not different. It's in our face, and the question is, what are we going to do about it now that it's so overtly in our face? Is
social media, in that sense, a double-edged sword?
I think social media has its benefits, it has its pros and its cons, but one pro that it has had is it has woken us up in a way that we have not been woke in the past. It has put the faces and the human beings who are being killed in our hands. Like, we can see those names, and we should be able to use social media to honor those names, not just through tweets, but showing up, demanding justice, and being consistent in our outrage against the injustice against our community.
Linda Sarsour, thank you so very much for the time.
Thank you so much for here.